The Autumn Winds Are Sighing by Big T. Chapter 3. The Good Doctor. To say that the Tsaritsa is not impressed is a severe understatement, but Tartaglia thanks his lucky stars that he did not get killed for his embarrassing display of weakness, or for breaking all the court etiquettes in front of the goddess of all beings. It's probably because the Tsaritsa is even more unimpressed by the Dottor that he's been spared. Apparently, she was under the impression that the delusions he made for the Harbingers were perfectly and fully tested to ensure they were free of all defects. The look she had given the third Harbinger when he had stuttered his way through an explanation about backlashes was the closest thing to a murderous rage Tartaglia has seen her express. He would have enjoyed it a lot more if his life wasn't the one being affected by the Dottor's screw-up. He tries not to think too much about the ramifications of a backlash. Not while he's Tartaglia. So let's focus on the positives here. He wasn't killed, and he still has his job. Both of those things are very good. He did get sent to see the Dottor so that the latter can figure out a cure, and gets put on forced vacation until he makes a full recovery. Frankly, death would have been preferable to being forced to work with the Dottor. Fascinating, the other man mutters for the umpteenth time that afternoon as he pokes and prods Tartaglia's arms like one of his specimens. They've been sequestered to the Dottor's lab for over 2 hours now, with the first hour spent on studying Tartaglia's delusion for any signs of abnormality. When the Dottor found that the delusion was in perfect working order, he shifted his focus on Tartaglia, making him use his vision, use his delusion, curl his fingers into a fist, flex his arms, all manners of tests short of using the foul legacy transformation. And with every subsequent test that showed nothing wrong, the Dottor only grew giddier and giddier. Oh, this is a challenge indeed. How absolutely fascinating. The man started to get that insane gleam in his eyes, and Tartaglia does not like it one bit. If the man comes near him with a scalpel or a needle, Tartaglia won't hesitate to plant a knife in his gut. I have never seen side effects like this, the Dottor continues. Normally, users facing a backlash tend to just go poof. He giggles and mimes a bomb going off with his hands. Of which does not help Tartaglia's mood in any way, because that implies that the Dottor had known the severity of the delusion's side effect for quite some time now, but had neglected, or deliberately chosen not to, tell anyone, including the Tsaritsa. It appears the good doctor had loftier ambitions than he was expecting. How long did you say you were experiencing this side effect? 3 weeks, Tartaglia grits out. Started off mild, just pins and needles in the right hand, and those went away quickly at first. They started to occur more frequently, lasting a little longer each time, and spread further up my arm. Today is the worst I've experienced. I've never had my hand spark like this. Have you been wearing your delusion during these 3 weeks? On and off. Doesn't seem to change anything. I've experienced side effects in both situations. Fascinating. Scratch that. If the Dottor says fascinating one more time, Tartaglia will stab him right between his eyes. Maybe he can blame it on his faulty, fascinating hand for acting up. Oh, there's no need to give me such a foul look, my dear Tartaglia, the Dottor chuckles. You should take it as a promising sign that the symptoms are so mild compared to, well, the alternative. The alternative being death, Tartaglia says darkly. Dottor, has anyone told you that your definition of mild symptoms needs a rework? There's a reason why nobody likes the Dottor. Sure, he is well respected for being the third Harbinger, and for the countless inventions he had brought to Snezhnaya, which certainly bolstered the strength of the nation's military by multiple folds. His brilliance is lauded, and his steadfast dedication to his research is well known. Once the man is focused on a task, like a man possessed, he will neglect everything to satiate his curiosity. But does anyone like him? No. Not at all. The man has a callous disregard for all things living. To him, everything's a specimen, ready to be tested and just as easy disregarded once they break. He has no love for anything save for whatever topic his mind is temporarily fixated on, and has no real loyalty to anyone except himself. Tartaglia doubts the Dottor even cares to serve the Tsaritsa. She probably only secured his cooperation with equal parts threats to his life and tantalizing promises of freedom to research, build, and make whatever he pleases with unlimited resources backing his project. A man that is so utterly untethered to anything save his own twisted obsessions is dangerous. And he is approaching Tartaglia with a needle. No. Tartaglia whips out his dagger and points it to the doctor, who freezes in his tracks. "Get that thing away from me." "Come now, there's no need to be so hostile. Aren't we all colleagues here, comrade?" "One step closer, and this," Tartaglia waves his dagger, "goes in your head, comrade." "No, you're just being difficult," the doctor says, but he does not seem at all intimidated. If anything, his grin grows wide, his lips stretching thin as teeth flash under the blue glow illuminating the laboratory. It makes him look garish and wild, deranged even. "I was just getting a blood sample. It would be infinitely more difficult to find out what's wrong and to develop a cure without a little sample." The smile Tartaglia flashes at the doctor is all teeth and pure viciousness. "I have nothing but the utmost faith in your abilities, good doctor," he says carefully, softly, but his dagger does not move. That has the doctor pursing his lips in an almost pout. Then he tilts his head and, for the first time ever, looks at Tartaglia, all previous humor wiped clean from its expression. It's not the usual dismissive little side glances he tends to give everyone, or the half-lidded look of boredom he likes to wear. This time his crimson eyes are wide and clear as his unblinking gaze focuses on Tartaglia like a laser beam. His entire figure goes unnaturally still. It's like he's taking stock of Tartaglia, like he's really noticing the other as something more than just a background noise. He looks like he's judging, calculating, assessing. Tartaglia meets his gaze head-on, even though the look makes him go cold. It lasts for a few tense seconds. The doctor is the first to break away with a snort. No one appreciates the sanctity of science and research in these parts, but he puts his needle away, instead turning back to the lab bench. He opens a drawer and rummages through its contents. "Here, since you insist on being difficult, the most I can do at the moment is provide these." Tartaglia peers at the objects the doctor is holding out, and slowly, very slowly, lowers his dagger. It's an open rectangular box, its length no longer than the man's hand, with what looks like 10 little glass vials nestled on a bed of dark velvet. He picks up the box with a careful hand and takes one of the vials out for inspection. The liquid inside is a murky white with just a tad of pearlescence swirling in it. He gives the doctor a suspicious look. "What is this?" The doctor has the audacity to roll his eyes. "For you. Medicine," he drawls out like he's providing an explanation to a particularly dull child. Part painkiller, part elemental suppressant, diluted many times over. These should suppress those side effects if they decide to flare up again. Each vial contains 2 doses. Only take them when you experience a serious side effect like the one you had in the throne room. Take it when you are somewhere safe, obviously, because it will dampen your ability to use your vision for 2 hours. It might also make you feel more lethargic. The way the doctor had just whipped those vials out of nowhere is almost as uncomfortable as the idea of deliberately weakening his own strength by taking an elemental suppressant. That also makes him sleepy. Surely the good doctor has another type of medicine that would allow their patient to be, less of a sitting duck, more functional. The doctor shrugs. "This is what I have at the moment, until I can develop the first batch of cure. Of course, this process can all go so much faster if you only gave me a sample of your blood." At Child's blank look, the doctor sighs. "Such a shame, but that's what I thought. In any event, I should have a first batch of experimental cure in about, 2 weeks' time. Possibly 3. I have a theory I can work off of. No thanks to you. Now, unless there's anything else, get out of my lab. I have lots of work to do. Lots of work." Tartaglia is more than happy to leave. He tucks his dagger back in its holster, and heads for the exit. "I'll have my people pick up that first batch from your lab. I trust that you will coordinate the logistics on your end as well?" The doctor has already turned his back to him and merely answers, half distracted and sounding very bored. Yes, I'll have someone sort the peons out. Are you done, or do you have more any inane questions?" I can still easily kill you from where you stand." "Which you won't, because how else will you get your cure? Good day, comrade." Chapter 4. The Return Home. Tartaglia doesn't spend a second longer in the palace than necessary. He takes precisely 10 minutes to give instructions to his captains to set up a network between him and the palace labs, and more instructions on where to contact him for weekly updates from his spy network. With that done, he marches off to his rooms to hastily pack and change into more travel-appropriate clothes, one suited to handle the country's harsh winters. The moment he steps out of the front entrance of the palace, a gilded horse-drawn carriage rolls up to him, all lavish gold over polished dark wood with the Fatui logo painted prominently on the door. A flood of servants start loading his bags into the coach while the coachman, one of his subordinates who had followed him back from Liyue, hops down from his driver's seat. "Lord Harbinger," he greets with a bow. "Where would you like to go today?" "The Romashka estate," Tartaglia answers before stepping into the carriage. The moment the door closes behind him with a click, he breathes out a heavy sigh and sheds off his Tartaglia persona for Child. The Romashka estate, or the Chamomile estate, is a grand manor home gifted to Child by the Tsaritsa when he had been knighted as a harbinger. It's a day's journey south of the palace, resting on a sprawling, sunny meadow, nestled between two lush forests teeming with wild game. During spring and summer the fields are dotted with fragrant chamomile, a beloved and treasured flower of Snezhnaya for its delicate beauty and its many uses. During the winter, the manor and its lands are blanketed in endless white, like the palace or any other building in the country. White and bleak, stark and harsh. It is everything opposite from the warm gold of the place he had called home for the past 2 years. Or the way that Zhongli's eyes glow when he chuckled at. Child roughly shoves away that unfinished thought. Not even 10 minutes into this persona and he's already being this obnoxiously wistful. Honestly, it's time to move on. In any event, the Romashka estate. It is an exceptionally lavish gift from the Tsaritsa, and this opinion is widely shared among the citizens of Snezhnaya. "Do you see the Romashka estate?" they would whisper on the streets. "Serve her, and one will reap rewards and wealth beyond one's wildest dreams." It is also precisely because of that Child does not actually live there. Why would Child, a harbinger with many, many enemies, stay in a home that's known to everyone? That's just asking for trouble, in the most idiotic way possible. No, he much prefers another location to call home, one he goes to great lengths to keep secret. So he uses the Romashka estate as his headquarters, with the rooms occupied by his men and loyal staff to keep the estate running. The hustle and bustle of activities around the estate should convince anyone watching that Child is actually living there, which is exactly what he wants. He also helps maintain this facade by making sure he's seen traveling from the palace to the estate with all his luggage in tow. This arrangement also has the unexpected use of filtering all of his outside correspondence, ensuring that only the important ones will be forwarded to his real home by way of ravens. Everything else can be tossed or handled at a later date. The only ravens that can directly reach him regardless of where he is in the country are those carrying the Tsaritsa's messages. There really is no hiding from the omnipotent gaze of the great goddess. Tartaglia has long since made peace with this reality to feel terrified. It's well into the early morning by the time they roll to a stop in front of the Romashka estate. Despite the early hours, his men and his servants have gathered themselves into a neat row by the entrance to greet him. "Welcome home, Lord Harbinger," his head butler says with a bow the moment Child steps out of the carriage. "It is good to see you make it back to Snezhnaya safe and sound. Will you be staying with us for the next few days?" Child shakes his head, but gives the man an easy smile. "Unfortunately not, Vadim," he says with regret. "I plan to head out after checking up on a few things, but I am glad to see that you are doing well, old friend. How are the others?" "Doing wonderfully, my lord. Thank you for your concern. I understand my lord must be busy, but surely he can stay for a meal and some tea? Everyone misses you so." How was Child supposed to say no to that? Besides, Child was in such a rush to get out of the palace, he hadn't really had the chance to sit down for a proper meal, instead relying on his soldiers' rations to stave off hunger. A home-cooked breakfast sounds positively divine right now. Child grins. "That would be lovely. I'll have to trouble you and the rest of the kitchen staff so early this morning." "It is our honor to serve you, my lord." "Sir, I apologize for interrupting, but would you like us to bring your bags inside?" Child turns to his subordinate and waves away his apology. "It's fine. No need to bring those inside. Have everything else loaded into a separate cart, except the red one. That will travel with me. I intend to depart in 3 hours, so please have my horse ready by then." "Do you have a preference, Lord Harbinger?" Child pauses. "A common stock. Something sturdy. I will need to be discreet." "Yes, sir." True to his words, Child spends exactly 3 hours at the estate. The first hour he spends it enjoying his delicious meal and catching up with his staff, happily chatting about his, heavily redacted, adventures in Liyue and listening to them gossip about all that went on in their lives in the last 2 years. The rest of his time is spent in an emergency meeting with his personnel to make sure everything is running smoothly. He also takes the opportunity to announce his vacation to his most-trusted captains. "I will be operating near Outpost 720 as usual," he says to the 2 of the 6 people in all of Snezhnaya who knows where the 11th Harbinger actually lives. "Please ensure that my cargo is sent to that outpost. They should already be loaded onto a separate cart, ready for departure." "Yes, sir," his captains salute. "Have an enjoyable vacation, sir. We will keep the estate safe until your return." Satisfied with the knowledge that his men will hold the fort, and with the last round of fond farewells to his staff, Child tugs back on his winter gear, mounts his horse, whose name he learns is Aza, pulls the hood of his furred traveling cloak over his head, and sets off on the snowy trail. If anyone were to describe where Child lives based solely on his neat and admittedly posh appearance, they would use words like grand, majestic, and wealthy, words that denote his status. Knowing that he's a Harbinger only further cements those stereotypes, since, after all, Harbingers are widely known to be largely made up of members of the upper echelon. Which is another reason why nobody would bat an eye at the assumption that Child's home is the Romashka estate. It is fitting that a grand, luxurious home be the place of abode for such a powerful man as himself. The reality is a little different. Child guides his horse carefully through the winding country road, avoiding the deep snow and ice. They have been traveling for a better part of the day, stopping to rest and have a snack. In that time, Child's right hand had acted up twice, though none as badly as that disastrous meeting with the Tsaritsa. Just the usual pins and needles. It's still enough to make him hurry his horse along, lest they be stuck out in the wilderness. The sight of the simple log cabin that makes up Outpost 720 is a sight for sore eyes. As with the 2 Fatui members manning the posts, numbers 3 and 4 of the 6 people who knows where he lives. "Lord Harbinger!" The members salute as Child dismounts, his feet landing lightly on the snow-covered ground. "Welcome back to Snezhnaya. It is good to have you back with us. We trust that your travels went smoothly?" "Yes, everything is peaceful, thank you," Child answers with an amicable smile. He gives the horse a couple of pats on the neck. "Asa here served me well, so please make sure to treat him with something extra special. I'll leave him in your capable hands." Where he's going, the less flashier his entrance, the better. "Yes, sir." After confirming that everything is well and informing his men of his intention to stay nearby for the foreseeable future, he grabs his red pack, slings the strap over his shoulder, and sets off on foot, the snow crunching beneath every step of the way. Child's been lucky so far in his travels, with the sky being perfectly clear, and it seems like his luck continues to hold out for this last leg of the journey. As he continues trekking down the country road, every exhale forming a puff of fog in front of him, the rugged hills dotted with tall pine trees transform into vast sparkling snowfields of well-used land. More presence of human life slowly making its way into his surroundings with every step forward. A worn fence here, an abandoned cart there, and a few paces away lies a wooden stall with the sign, "Closed for the winter season." At the fork of the road he makes a right turn. Then, at the second fork, he makes a left. Finally, a familiar farmhouse emerges from the hill in front of him. It's a sturdy structure, a modest 2-story building made of wood and stone, with a decorated gable roof from which a stone chimney protrudes. The robin blue paint on the trimmings, windows, and door gives the house a sense of coziness, at odds with its cold surroundings. Besides, the house sits in a smattering of simple wooden structures, a stable, a barn, a shed, and behind all that lies the white expanse of a frozen lake. He reaches the fence door, fumbles with the simple latch through his thick gloves, and gives a soft "ah" when he succeeds in unlocking the door. It swings open with a rusty creak. He'll need to oil those hinges, and passes through, making sure to lock it behind him once more. This close to the house, he can see several sets of little footprints tracking along the path, and he grins, 4 snowmen of various sizes on the lawn, each sporting eyes and a wobbly smile made of pebbles. The tallest is wearing a red scarf, and, on what appears where its waist, a large blue marble, the exact shade of his vision. "Little devils," Child chuckles fondly, continuing his trek with a spring in his steps. He stops in front of the door, taking the time to brush the snow off his pants and boots, straighten his clothes, and tug off his hood. He frowns when the material catches on the mask he's still been wearing since leaving the palace. Oh right, he almost forgot. With deft hands, he removes the symbol of his status as 11th Harbinger and stuffs it into one of the innermost pockets of his traveling cloak. Then, he takes a couple of moments to breathe. And as he exhales, he sheds away child. He knocks on the door with 3 rapid tap-tap-tap. A muffled, "Coming!" sounds from the other side, coupled with the pitter-pattering of furious footsteps. A few seconds later, the door is yanked open and... Tonia's eyes go wide behind her glasses. "Big brother!" She positively shrieks and latches onto the other's middle in a fierce hug. "Anton! Tusser! Come quick! Big brother is back!" Ajax laughs in pure, childlike joy. He drops the red bag to wrap his own arms around her in a fierce hug of his own. "Yes, I'm back, little sister. It's very good to see you again. Did you miss me?"